Hi there, my name is Marley. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a wrap up of what I watched in July. This is going to be TV shows and movies, so you can know what's worth watching and what is not. So the first show that I completed this July is Black Lightning, which is a superhero show that airs on the CW, though it is available on Netflix. This show follows Jefferson Pierce, who used to be Black Lightning about, I think, 20 years ago on the show, but he has been retired since he beat the big bad, Tobias. But he ends up getting back into the action when his daughters start to get into trouble and the villain is back, so he goes back to being Black Lightning. And we see both of his daughters, one of which is in her 20s and the other one is a teenager, start to develop their own powers and obviously become superheroes themselves. This show had ups and downs. The first season didn't totally draw my attention that much, but then the second season was really good and I binged that season very quickly. And then season 3 dropped down a little bit for me again, but I really do enjoy some of the characters, which would be the two daughters of Black Lightning, which is Anissa and Jennifer. Overall, I would recommend this if you are into superhero shows and action and female empowerment. The next show that I started in July is Doom Patrol, which is another DC superhero show. I did not finish it though. I only have watched a few episodes, and it's also sort of a spin-off slash takes place in the same universe as the show Titans. This follows a couple of different characters who have pretty like wacky, kind of weird powers. They're sort of like a misfit group of superheroes. They're still kind of figuring that out where I'm at in the show, only a few episodes in. And I have to say I wouldn't rate this show very high, which is a reason why I'm not that far into it, is that I'm not very drawn into it right now. However, as I said, it is early on, so that could definitely change. I think there's been 2 seasons, so maybe like with a lot of shows, the second season's better, but for right now, not loving Doom Patrol. Another show that I am currently watching in July is Stargirl, another superhero show that is on the CW. This follows a teenage girl named Courtney who suddenly discovers Starman's staff in her basement, and it sort of chooses her to be the next star person, in this case Stargirl. From there, she starts to recruit some of her friends to be some of the other popular superheroes that are in the JSA, Justice Society of America, such as Wildcat and Hourman, and the villains in the show are the ISA, Injustice Society of America. This show is amazing where I'm at right now. I am absolutely loving it. I love how it has the high school vibes, which makes it fun, unlike a lot of superhero shows where they are out of high school. I love the ensemble cast, which has the parents and the adults, but then also all of the kids. I'm interested in all of the storylines, and seeing all of the heroes and all of the villains is really cool, and I would definitely recommend this if you're into superhero shows, or even if you're not, honestly. This is probably one of the best superhero shows that I've watched. The next show that I completely binged during July was Netflix's version of Unsolved Mysteries. Now this is more of an upsetting show. It's not very lighthearted, obviously. Most of the episodes are about murders or kidnappings or whatever that were unsolved. But I would really recommend it, or at least all of the episodes except for the UFO episode, because that one was really boring to me. But it's very interesting to see that none of these cases were resolved, and a lot of them do have like a bias to them where you think it's a certain person, and it's very frustrating. And hopefully with the popularity of the show, some of these mysteries can be solved, or people will come out with some more information. But if you're interested in like murder mysteries and that sort of thing, then I would recommend Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. The next show that I watched all the way through in July was Cursed. This is on Netflix, and it is about the Lady of the Lake from the Arthurian legends. Now, I feel like this was promoted to be like, what if King Arthur was a girl? Like, that's what I thought going into it, but that is not exactly it. She's the Lady of the Lake, if you know about that, and Arthur is in it, and like all of those other Arthurian characters are there. This show also had ups and downs for me. The story could get a tad boring, it's feeling like you didn't really know where it was going, and it was getting very dragged point out there was a lot of violence, where I feel like they were trying to be like Game of Thrones, like a lot of things are these days, and they kill a lot of good characters. However, there were obviously some good moments, some good episodes. My favorite characters are Merlin and Squirrel and the Weeping Monk, and I like Pym, I think her name is, and I sort of like Nimue, as you know, she's the main character. So it did have some good characters, and the ending was really good. It ended on a good note, a cliffhanger, and I'm ready for season 2 if we get one. The next show I want to mention is Love, Victor, which was on Hulu, and this has to be my favorite of the month. This is a spin-off of the Love, Simon movie, so it takes place in the same universe, only it follows Victor. Him and his family have recently moved to Creekwood, and he is dealing with coming to terms with his sexuality, which he is questioning, along with fitting into a new school. We see his sister's storyline, we see his parents who are having trouble, and then his friendships with his other classmates, the other characters. When I first finished this show, I was like convinced it was perfect. Like, I was so impressed. Looking back, I do see a couple issues with it, such as all of the cast is straight pretty much when they're playing gay characters, some of them, which I know is a critique. A lot of people want to see more gay people playing gay characters instead of always casting straight people. I definitely recognize some of the issues, but I still thought it was so good. Some people also say there's not enough gay stuff in it, but it did start out as being on Disney Plus apparently, and then Hulu got it instead, so that might be why it was a little less gay than you'd want, but I still thought it was really good. I still thought the main romances were all really cute, and I'd recommend this to everyone. The last TV show I want to talk about is The 100. It is currently airing its final season, season 7, I believe, and I have not caught up to it yet. I'm about 6 episodes through, and as usual, I'm not really loving it, but that's typical for me and that show. I find that it's very confusing and not super interesting. It's gotten to be where it's so much about like the plot that we're not really getting those character moments, we're not getting those romances and relationships that always make a show better. Also, the show has just escalated so much that the storyline is pretty crazy. We're dealing with like alternate dimensions or universes. It's getting weird, and then the timelines are getting weird, and it's getting hard to follow. So let me know what you're thinking about this season if you're watching it, but I'm not loving it. But normally as the season goes on, I'll normally start to like it more, but I'm currently not loving it. Now I want to touch on a couple of the movies that I watched this month. The first one being The Good Neighbor, which was on Amazon Prime. This follows 2 boys who decide to prank one of their neighbors, an old man who lives across the road from them. So to do this, they set up a bunch of hidden cameras in his house, and they watch him as they basically terrorize him, making weird noises so he's creeped out, making the door open and close, basically like faking a haunting as a prank, and it sort of escalates from there. I guess I didn't love this movie, but if this premise sounds interesting to you, check it out. But honestly, I found it to be a lot of build up for something that was a little bit of a letdown and honestly sort of depressing. The next movie I watched was Stonehearst Asylum. This is your typical sort of thriller asylum movie. I had a lot of hope for this, but wasn't that impressed. It's basically about a doctor that goes to this asylum to start his new job, and he realizes something is going on here, and basically the patients had taken over the hospital, and all of the staff were like down in the basement in the dungeon basically. There is a twist at the end that I appreciated, and I didn't really see it coming exactly, but I've seen a movie with that twist before, so I didn't really think that they were going to do a similar twist. That's why I wasn't expecting it. Again, sort of just a so-so movie. Another movie that I watched this month was The Sun Is Also a Star, which is beautiful. It's based off of the book by Nicola Yoon, which I ended up reading afterwards, but I really enjoyed watching the movie. While it is cheesy, it also was very enjoyable. Basically, it's about a girl named Natasha whose family are immigrants, and she is getting deported that day or the next day, and she is trying to find a way for her parents to stay, visiting lawyers and all of that. And in the meantime, she bumps into Daniel, who is a Korean American boy. His family are also immigrants, and they've put put like the typical pressure on him to be a doctor, where he's actually interested in being a poet. Anyways, they end up meeting, falling in love, having a cute one day together before she gets deported. Or does she? Or is she able to stay? Find out. I would recommend this movie. Next movie I watched was Feel the Beat on Netflix. I think it was a Netflix original, and it's one of those kind of like cheesy looking movies that I knew probably wouldn't be that good, and yeah, it was pretty so-so. It's your typical like cheesy bad Netflix movie. It's about a girl, I forget her name, but she is trying to be a professional dancer on Broadway, and she really screws up and she ends up going back home to her small town, and she gets wrapped up in teaching this little kid dancing class and helping them be better dancers and entering a contest. And it's one of those things where the main character is like a selfish, mean girl, and then throughout the story she like grows and becomes nice. It's like kind of cute, but it felt like really long, like way longer than it needed to be for what it was. The next film that I watched this month was actually a play, and that was Hamilton. Obviously the Broadway play was filmed and put on Disney Plus, and I had not seen any version of the play before, so it was my first time watching this story, and I was very impressed. There were some slight ups and downs, like certain parts were a little boring to me or a little bit confusing, just because I am not super aware of the American history or who Alexander Hamilton is, but I ended up really enjoying a lot of the musical numbers and the story, and obviously the performances were really good. So I'm glad that I was able to experience that and see what everyone's been loving for all these years. The last movie that I want to talk about is Dangerous Lies on Netflix. This has Camila Mendes in it, and that's sort of why I was interested in it. Also, plot sounded interesting, and this was definitely a movie that had a big build up. Like, I was like interested, and then it flopped at the end. Basically, it's about this young married couple that is really struggling financially, and the girl, Camila Mendes, ends up being a personal caretaker type of person for this old man, and he ends up dead. And her boyfriend end up stealing some of his money before they end up finding out that she was actually left his whole like house in the will. So it's kind of like sketchy, and then her boyfriend's being really sketchy, and it's like, what's going on? And they find a dead body at one point, and there's this guy stalking them, and it's like this big mystery of like, very similar to Knives Out. They definitely got inspiration, that's what people have been saying, about an old man dying and then like who done it type of thing. Yeah, not really worth it. I did see some people liked it, but the ending just was not for me. So those are most of the things that I watched in July, unless I forgot any. Not sure if I'm gonna keep doing these for each month, but since I watched so much this month, I thought I would share, and maybe I'll keep doing this, similar to how I do my reading wrap-ups. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you've watched any of these shows and what your thoughts were, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!